I rise to speak on the Puffing Billy Railway Bill 2022. Puffing Billy is iconic. It is one of the biggest tourist attractions in Eastern Victoria region, and one that we are very proud of where I live in the Dandenong Ranges. In fact, I live so close to the railway that I can hear its whistle often. Like many of us in this chamber, I have fond memories of trips on Puffing Billy as a child. I sat in the window with my legs dangling over the sides as the train made its way from Belgrave up to Gembrook. I've since returned with my family on many occasions, and my children enjoy it just as much as I did. It's a timeless family destination. In fact, we see how the children love it so much. Often I am caught at a railway crossing and all the children hanging out the side waving, and we love nothing more than to wave back at them. It's absolutely fantastic. For us, Puffing Billy is a fun day out and a place where everyone enjoys themselves. However, the bill before us today comes as a result of the 2018 Ombudsman's report, which was an investigation into child sex offender Robert Whitehead's involvement with Puffing Billy and other railway bodies. What happened at Puffing Billy was abhorrent. It occurred over many years and has led us to discussing this bill today. I was not a member of this chamber when the Minister apologised to the victim survivors, but my thoughts are certainly with them all. The Ombudsman's report clearly highlights significant failings in governance of the railway. There are limited reporting requirements under the current Act, the Emerald Tourist Railway Act, which led to many problems and, unfortunately, cover-ups. This bill seeks to repeal the Emerald Tourist Railway Act and replace it with this new Act. The Emerald Tourist Railway Board, as we currently know it, will undergo a name change and be known as the Puffing Billy Railway Board. The board will change to be a skills-based board made up of a maximum of 10 members. A number of my constituents have reached out with concerns around this, which I will return to in a moment. The bill provides for the ongoing management and sustainability of Puffing Billy as a significant tourist attraction. It also gives the board powers to implement corporate governance and policies, and importantly, it vows to maintain the heritage significance of the railway. This is an important aspect, to maintain the heritage. This railway is 121 years old. We want to see it continue to thrive as one of our premier tourist destinations. Pre-COVID, it was attracting over 500,000 visitors each year. The railway was sadly closed in 1954 after a string of financial losses and a landslide which blocked the line between Selby and Menzies Creek. Melbourne newspaper The Sun organised a final farewell to Puffing Billy. Over 2,500 tickets were sold to ride on the train one last time, but over 30,000 people turned up to the gates. It was this show of public support that sent locals into protest to save the train. They formed the Puffing Billy Preservation Society, which still exists today, and can now rightfully boast they saved Puffing Billy. Puffing Billy holds a place in the heart of many Victorians, not just the public who love to visit it. It is the reason many of my constituents get out of bed in the morning and spend many hours volunteering at the railway. It is historically significant to the Puffing Billy Preservation Society, and I understand there is some strong tension between the Preservation Society and the current board. And this bill has created some further concerns which I think are important to address. I was recently contacted by a constituent, David Perricine, who has been a Puffing Billy Railway volunteer and member of the Preservation Society for 60 years. That is decades and decades of volunteering to make Puffing Billy the great attraction it is today. Like many of the volunteers, David feels that after years of dedication to the railway, this bill is seeking to push him and others in the Preservation Society out. If passed, as the bill stands, the Puffing Billy Railway Board must consist of at least 5, but not more than 10 directors appointed by the Governor on the recommendation of the Minister. The bill goes on to state that no more than 2 directors can have been members of the Puffing Billy Preservation Society in the last 12 months, and anyone with an elected position within the society is not eligible to be appointed to the board. Numerous constituents have contacted me concerned that these provisions limit the input of those most interested and concerned with preserving of the railway. These are the people who joined a society for the very purpose of preserving the railway, and they are having their involvement limited or prohibited in some circumstances. Under the current Act, 4 out of 10 board members are nominated by the Preservation Society. The bill before us today seeks to halve their involvement and limit it to 2. The existing composition was obviously far from perfect. The poor legislative drafting meant control of the board effectively defaulted to nominees of a group of volunteers. Running a board requires many skills. Local knowledge and preservation of trains is one very important aspect, and so is knowledge of organisational governance and business responsibilities. This new skills-based board is intended to allow people with relevant skills to make up the board. However, the society members I have spoken to would like more of a say. They wish that the terrible mistakes of the past society were not condemning all current society members. These constituents have raised with me that it is the office bearers of the Preservation Society who are the most devoted to preserving and promoting the railway, and they are the ones disqualified from appointment to the board. Members of the society may have the skills required for the skills-based board, but because of their membership to the society, they are limited in how many can be appointed. Why, I ask the question, is there not a maximum of 2 board members for other people with common affiliations? These society members feel they are being victimised and discriminated against due to the failings of Victorian Railways, the old board and the old society. Those people have moved on. One of the objectives of the new board is to recognise the importance of volunteer participation in the operation of Puffing Billy Railway. This is particularly important because volunteers play an invaluable role in the operation of the railway, and they want that to continue. They deserve to be respected for their years of dedication and hard work, and I am pleased to see them recognised in this bill. There is, however, no clear direction as to how volunteers will continue to be engaged in the operations of the railway. Volunteers feel a bit left in the dark about their future involvement, and although they would like to see this bill delay so there can be greater consultation about how it will work moving forward. To sum up the concerns, I'm going to quote directly from a few constituents who have contacted me. One constituent has said, and I quote, "It would seem that all those efforts are to be disregarded and that the new board will assume full control of the railway without any reference to or consultation with those to whom the railway owes its very existence." Another said, "The sole aim is to vest control of the railway with the minister to the exclusion of the Puffing Billy Preservation Society, the passionate group that saved the railway 60 plus years ago and created one of Australia's most successful tourist destinations." Now, one of the biggest concerns about this board composition is what will happen to assets. There is a heated dispute about asset ownership between the society and current board. When the Preservation Society formed to save the railway, they raised funds, bought equipment, repaired tracks and rolling stock. The land surrounding Puffing Billy is a mix of board land, freehold parcels owned by the Preservation Society and various other leases, licences and Crown land. The bill enables the new board to grant a lease, licence or easement over any land vested in or owned, leased or managed by the new board. This has created concerns that parcels of land may be acquired by stealth. They can create proprietary interests in land they merely lease, which would push out the rightful owner. There have already been disagreements about land and asset ownership. These volunteers do not need the added pressure and cost of court cases over land and asset disputes. If this bill intends to bring about positive change, that should not be happening. I'm concerned that through the inadequate wording of the provision, it does not resolve conflict, but instead leaves the door open for future conflict and court action over asset and land. The reasons we are seeing this bill are clear. There were substantial failings that occurred at Puffing Billy Railway, and skills-based governance and oversight is needed. However, the Puffing Billy Preservation Society is made up of volunteers who are emotionally invested in this railway. Now, Mr Davis did put forward the opposition's amendments for a consultative committee to be established and meet twice a year with 3 members of the Preservation Society on it. This will allow the Puffing Billy Preservation Society a seat at the table to continue providing their valuable insight while allowing for a new skills-based board to come in and improve governance. There would also be room at the table for people who represent community groups and historical societies. Local knowledge is valuable knowledge. The amendment strikes a balance between improved governance and the rights of community and volunteers to have a continued voice. I understand the House will also be bringing forward amendments. I have not seen them, but I hope that these amendments would address to achieve the same.